Today we are talking about fee income and waivers. In today's Proving Data Strategies session, these are our annual series or seasons, I suppose we call them, of our webinars to discuss proving the value of data and looking through some of the examples that those of us on the Asterisk Intelligence team have put together historically and what we're looking forward to. The different ways that we have used data to share and show credit unions the value of data. And hopefully it's something that resonates with you and is something you can take back to your own role or your credit union, your colleagues as well, with some of the examples that we see today. I'm running through a slightly different style of our webinar today. I've got a mini PowerPoint here, and we won't spend a lot of time in the PowerPoint. These are short sessions, at most half an hour anyway. But rather than going into the system, into our training credit unions, I wanted to put together it's sort of like a mini sample book of some of those, write-ups that we have done in the past. And we'll look through those together today. So just a little bit of housekeeping. Let's see, I think everybody is muted. So if you have a question, please send it through chat or later on, email us at ai@cuanswers.com. I'd appreciate you joining us live today. And let's get started. Okay, so this is a little example. I apologize, there is a lot of text on the screen, but the intent here is to demonstrate that this is kind of the pairing of a little write-up with something visual, something to show. All right, so that's the model, as anyone who's attended this season's worth of webinars on proving data strategies has seen. That's kind of the model that we endorse and follow ourselves, is to say, what sort of data can we find easily and quickly in the system or any of the systems that we're using? And then how can I show it to people? What's a good summary view to screenshot or a chart that I can pull out of here? And then what can I say about it? What do I see here? What might be valuable to me at the credit union or to one of my colleagues? Perhaps I don't care very much about printed check fees, but I know my branch managers or head tellers might be interested in seeing those numbers of how many fee opportunities we had, for example. Because with today's topic being fee income and waivers, we're kind of going to stay focused on one specific tool here. I think I cut out the section of our little write-up that mentioned the tool number, so I'll note it right now. This is inside tool 369, the fee income and waivers dashboard. So what this is doing, this screenshot over to the right, is a sample of a credit union's results for the month of, in this case, August and July 2021. And as we looked through these numbers, the write-up over to the left is just sort of acknowledging, hey, non-interest income has been a growing area of focus for credit unions. We saw 2020 really change the game, as it were, of member habits, and even just credit union policy on when and how you're choosing to charge fees. So getting an eyeball on sort of the numbers and quantifying that is being done a couple of ways by credit unions I've seen. It's not always been this dashboard. I know some of you you're going straight to your general ledger, and you're looking at those GLs that are holding the fee income balances. But so there's multiple ways to kind of get a look at the general trend, right? But this dashboard is particularly interesting because it's going to allow for us the comparative view that's spotlighted in this particular sample. I think, let's see, I think this is one I did, and when I pulled this one, I was looking at the idea that we could take the historical data and potentially as an alternative approach in this dashboard, we can take historical data and actually adjust these values. So the screenshot shows July 2021 in one half and August 2021 for another half. I could have made this August 2020 compared to August 2021. And that's a really interesting view, sort of. Some states, depending on where you're at, maybe we're coming out of COVID lockdowns around August 2020, or still in the middle of them. the COVID effect was still certainly strong, but now that we're in August 2021, what kind of differences in numbers do we see? So one of the things I saw in this data set was that the total service charge income increased from approximately about $5,000 to nearly $6,200, and that's the share draft non-return fee service. So that's the courtesy pay service. So if we look at the third line up from the bottom, so we actually saw courtesy pay income for this credit union increase. So that was bucking the trend a little bit. But then, I don't think I have it demonstrated on a screenshot. I think that slide didn't make it in, but there is also the option to say, I want to drill down on, or I want to drill down on, let's say, that courtesy pay fee section, because we waived $30 and then waived $60 worth of fees. Why did those get waived? Well, if we drill down on this share draft non-return piece, you would be able to see the details of kind of a breakdown, summary look of how many were charged. So fee was charged, how many were waived, fee was waived, and then there's all the reasons they get waived. And for those of you who run, just as a couple keywords to throw out here, and you may not know this for sure about your credit union, but someone will. There's a lot of credit unions I know run different automated fee waiver programs through marketing clubs and just through the fee configs themselves, where you will be automatically waiving fees for members of certain age ranges. You'll be automatically waiving fees for members with certain aggregate balances, or if you'll say maybe for this fee, if they have a loan or any off-trial balance account, waive the fee. If they've got a loan, they're not somebody I want to have impacted by this fee. So go ahead and waive it. There's a lot of different demographic and account relationship type of factors that you can have configured fee waivers for. So that is one big takeaway from a strategy standpoint, to go back to your dashboard. This is tool 369, just to reiterate, and I think that's a question that just came through. So 369 is the number for this tool. And start looking at these service fees, non-interest income, sources, right? And drill down and look at the reasons. These are all, if there's waivers present, look at the reasons your credit union is waiving those fees. You may see that you are very happy with that choice. On this credit union, the printed check fees has the vast majority of them being waived currently. My guess is they're quite liberal with those waivers, and saying really just, a lot of credit unions will say, I want to waive those fees for any members who are over a certain age and have at least this much money in their account. If they've got this much in deposits with me, I'm not going to begrudge them the $2. I don't want to charge them the $2 for the printed check, the page of checks, right? So something like that. But if you took a look and saw some surprises, again, that's just drilling down with the spyglass button on any one of these, then you may find this is a place where real dollars and cents conversation starts happening. You may find some cases where you're almost excessively waiving fees for a reason that you're ready to move on from. Perhaps that choice was made to set that threshold or limit about 10 years ago, and it's time to change that for your credit union. And this may be an easy way to tweak some dials and identify where exactly to tweak the dials as I move on to the next sample here. Where exactly to tweak those dials and potentially start watching fees actually get charged instead of waived. Now, specifically, there are some of us in the room here are thinking, okay, so now there's some members who previously weren't getting charged a fee and are now about to get charged this fee. Well, sometimes if it's something like a dormancy fee, as we see in the second row on this sample, then yeah, it'll all of a sudden kind of pop up as a surprise fee if you change configurations to limit dormancy. And there may need to be some member outreach conversations, and operationally speaking, how are we going to handle this moving forward? But for some of these things, especially like printed check fees or a few other aspects, right? There's not going to be it's probably not going to be often that you'll see an issue. For example, if you're addressing potentially some of those automated waivers on your courtesy pay program, or if they impact your courtesy pay program, it's just sort of a situational one-off type of event. And a member's going to see the description and say, oh, yep, I did that. That's me. It's It's an interesting, this conversation usually opens a few phases of conversation at a credit union. But in any case, another example, I was looking at a different credit union's data. This time we did take the annual approach. You'll notice one of these columns is January 2020 and another one is January 2021, sort of comparing sort of an annual year over year look, right? There is highlighted on the screen some of the more significant change where we see that the non-return fees are down by a good amount, okay? So we actually do see a pretty significant change, or I'm sorry, yeah, are down. And then dormancy fees are up just a little bit. But we're still waiving basically kind of the same amount, but we see 1900, 1955, an opportunity to charge a dormancy fee. Actually only charge $359 in fees. And then this year, this was last year, and then this year in January, 2,200. So a couple more, just a little additional segment of those members hitting dormancy, and we're charging almost double, not quite really, but almost double actual dormancy fees this year as well. Right? So these are the two that jumped out to me. Others, I mean, as we look at money order fees, really no material change here. We are waiving slightly fewer than we did last year, whereas on printed check fees, we're waiving a few more than we did last year as a proportion of total opportunity. But none of those changes are anything that prompts me to look deeper into the data and see if there's some underlying cause or some opportunity or potentially a warning sign, something we need to look at about how we're handling any of these fees at this time. All right, so then again, in this particular one, when we sent this off for the credit union, just made the comment again that there is data in this tool to help fill in the picture of the waiver reasons. If you want to dig into why 70% of your members are getting printed check fees waived and then 70% of them are seeing their money order fees waived, we can take a look at those reasons. You may have a pretty robust tiered scoring program and they're getting a lot of fees waived through that program. And it's really just kind of a matter of drilling down and educating yourself on what those are and taking the time to do it. Sometimes we make assumptions and use a tool like this to dig down and actually prove it to yourself as to why and whether or not you feel it's still within the original intent of your policies to waive fees. All right, so yep, thank you for adding that in the chat. This was tool 369, but you are right. You know, one of the tool number you threw out there in the chat here is 372 is another 372 and 370, I want to say, but sort of in this series, there is several other, I guess, supposed ways of slicing this fee data. In this particular dashboard does look at fee income and with the waiver impact, like it actually addresses opportunities for income and then shows you actual realized income next to the amount that was potential income, right? But there's a whole nother conversation about fee refunds that could be had in some of those other tools in the 369 to 372 or 3 range, help you dig into that and what employees are refunding fees and which products are seeing fees refunded. And keep in mind too that when we look at opportunity and charged, and so if we're looking at a total for the month in this particular dashboard, this is sort of more of a technical note from the doc standpoint. This number does not reflect any refunds. So if you're trying to compare this to a GL, we won't see them reconcile because your GL is going to have, you know, the total activity reflected, as it were, including when perhaps a member said, and hey, I got these 2 courtesy pay fees, can you refund them? Well, this dashboard is still going to show them as charged, and it is not going to retroactively update if someone refunds a couple fees on these categories, or on these products, I should say. So just a quick note on that point. And the same, you know, it's hard, you can't just like, you know, copy and paste off of my screen here really, and taking a screenshot may be helpful, but it still requires manually typing it out. But all of these little write-ups are literal text and content that we did provide to credit unions. So this was not produced especially for this webinar. This is the information that we're just wanting to share about what we see in their numbers, and you can you don't have to reinvent the wheel. If this is data you're interested in disseminating it throughout your credit union, just take it, or maybe even if you'd like to be able to just have the raw content, just shoot me an email. Email us at ai@coanswers.com, and I can send you the copies of this actual text. If you'd like to just simply copy and paste and share some of the same data with your credit union. But here is a totally different dashboard represented, tool 817, the skip a payment history dashboard. It's another type of fee. Now, why are we focusing on this fee? Well, it's because it was not represented over in tool 369, the one we've looked at a couple samples on already. This is a different type of essentially sort of a service fee where a member can say, I need a break from my loan payment. I need to skip the payment this month and not have you put me past due or penalize me, right? So most of us know what those programs are, but because of the way that they're coded and set up in the system, it's not something that does get tracked over in tool 369. It's got its own dedicated dashboard that we can dig into and really look at any different time period. So I ran the tool actually for a 2019 period, a 2020 period, and a 2021 period, and just pulled the screenshot. Each of these screenshots are off of the analysis page in that tool. And we get to look at this and answer questions like, how does my skip program or any one of my multiple skip programs look today compared to a prior year's same time period, or compared to whatever period you'd like to choose? Do we see material differences, and where do we see them located, as it were, especially if you're offering different? Let me just interpret this screenshot for a second. There's the option to offer members the ability to activate a skip-a-pay purely online, self-service entirely. If they're eligible for a skip, they can actually choose that option and just activate the skip, and it sort of takes effect, is my understanding. The members doing it themselves online, versus internal skips where the member reaches out and works with one of you guys at the credit union, a staff person who kind of fills out the data, the information in CUBase, and then applies the skip that way. Could be a phone call, could be stopping into a branch, but some staff person, one of you guys, is doing it. And there's the option for credit union. You guys can charge a different fee for each of these different options. So you can charge a member a little less if they're doing it online versus if they're coming in or taking up one of your employees' times. Okay, this credit union charged the same amount. It looks like $30 was their typical fee back in 2019. But look at where the average fee goes in 2020. Now, this is actually just something we saw pretty often through 2020, as folks were offering skips or even proactively just pushing skips, especially in the months of April and May, right, when unemployment rates were just skyrocketing into space, basically. So the average has a lot of $0 skips, right? No fee income from those mass skips, if you will, that were pushed out. The average really significantly drops. So that was just a very interesting effect to see quantified here, right? But then again, from the standpoint of reviewing this information, there's certainly some interesting things to see on the screen, but I always want to pair this conversation when we're talking about the value of data, is that the value of data should not sit with just yourself. This is information that can help inform you or guide you or direct you to the next thing to look at, but also when you have a few seconds, share it outwardly with your colleagues. And perhaps skips are not something that even normally crosses their radar in the day, but you're showing that you are by pushing out information like this with just a simple, here's what I see in the data, like we have in my write-up here. You're showing two things. You're showing that you are looking at this data. It's almost like a receipt that you're putting in the time to look at data and look for value in data. And you are also opening up a door for anyone else at the credit union to gather value out of this data. Value that you may not have even known they could find, because in your role, you've got certain filters and understandings and expectations of what something might mean, and someone else might have a whole nother viewpoint to pick something else out of this screen, and just simply putting it in front of them as I close my PowerPoint, because that's kind of the end of I'm on my pitch about sharing data and expanding audiences now. But just simply putting information in front of people is a valuable thing. And the fact that it's so easy to pull up these little summaries and the analysis pages in the system really makes it a pretty streamlined process as far as time, the amount of time it might take you, especially if you want sort of hand fed to you some of these templates for what Asterisk Intelligence has done already based off some of these dashboards. We'd be happy to send you the text of any data fact we've ever done. If you've got a dashboard and you want to know if we have a data fact, we call them data facts on it, reach out and we will let you know. Sometimes we won't, but we'll let you know and we'll share it with you. That wraps up the conversation. We looked at, practically speaking, those couple of dashboards, but also just more strategically speaking, the idea of making sure that your eyes are on data looking for value. We want to know and show that data has value, but we also need to be looking for that value in the first place. Kind of step one is put the effort in to open your eyes and go see it. And then tell people about it is step two. Having seen no other questions come through, we'll call it a afternoon, but I appreciate all of your time and for joining us live for today's topic. And if you haven't already and would like to sign up for the next topic, it's coming up in a couple of weeks at this point. So we do these every other Thursday at 3:00 at Eastern time. And let's see what the topic is. Oh, just kidding. This particular time, it's next week, the 7th. So it's on interest. The interest accrual and dividend accrual dashboards that we have in the core and in analytics booth. So a little bonus there. All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a wonderful rest of your day.